All right, so it's nice to be able to spend some time with you, Paula Sotir. We appreciate your time and efforts and sharing some information about CarePatrol, and I'm sure the ones that are going to be listening to this interview are going to value the time and effort put into this. We recognize that you are one of our top producers as well as the Franchisee of the Year last year. So what you have to say is going to be extremely valuable for those ones that are listening to us. Now, you're located in Maryland, northern Maryland. Is that correct?
Yes, Baltimore. I cover Baltimore County and Baltimore City.
Excellent, excellent. So tell us a little bit about your career prior to you getting involved with CarePatrol and what kind of sparked your interest in getting involved with CarePatrol.
So Tom, I'm a nurse by training. I don't actually still have my license, and I went into, got my MBA, and then from there ended up being on the business side of healthcare for 20 years and was an executive in, IV therapy, wound care, and home care. So I've been in healthcare a long time, done both sales, operation, new business, pretty much the gamut in healthcare. So when I was thinking about what was my next 10 years going to be, a couple things came to mind. One is I had decided I'd worked in a corporate world a long time, and I didn't want to do that again. I had the opportunity with a severance package, which is sort of always good, to figure out, do I want to own my own business? And I have a lot of good mentors in my life, my dad, my brother, etc., who all own their own business. I thought owning a franchise would be the best way to go because it decreases some of the risk you have, because you've got the franchise who sort of learned through their mistakes and other people doing this. So I would have learned, it would teach me after learning from, anywhere from 10 years in the franchise business. So what piqued me really was being my own boss, being in healthcare, and being in a business that really has sales, operations, and finance. So I thought it would really be best suited for my skill set.
Ah, very good, very good. How long have you been with CarePatrol?
3 years this month.
Great, anniversary time period. So you're moving on into your fourth year. That's great. Very good. Now tell me, Paula, was the business harder or easier or just what you thought it was going to be right after you had started the business?
Well, I think any new business is harder. I don't think you can go into something new and not have to work really, really hard, which is what I did. So I think what was harder is trying to balance, finding communities and going out and selling and then doing it all. I was a one-person show for about 18 months. My lesson learned there is I would never go 18 months on my own again, but I just didn't know. So I think, the tools they gave me were great, but you've got to put it into your process and figure out how to do it all. And I think that's what takes a little time, to know how to schedule your day, to know when you're going to do invoices, to know how to do invoices, all those kinds of things that are, obviously, we've got processes down now, but initially I was sort of finding my way.
Yes, and I'm sure you will agree with me that, the training and the system has evolved since the time that you got started, so hopefully it's a lot easier for those newer ones that are coming on board as well.
Yes, now, absolutely, and I think that they've done a good job with that.
Okay, great. Now, you did touch on it quite possibly being a little bit harder than what you initially thought. What was the hardest thing about the business that you found out?
The hardest thing. I guess the hardest thing is trying to figure out how to get into places, how to grow the business. They taught you and you learned to do it, but you had to sort of figure out how it would be best suited in sort of with you and in your words. And I was lucky in that I was pretty successful in hospitals right out of the gate. but I was unlucky or ineffective, actually, I would call it, in going into rehabs. And it's still taking me time to learn how to do that. So I think, you just feel like you have this great service, you can help them out, that it's better for their clients, but they don't always see it. And so, right. It took me some time to figure out how to do that.
Okay. So you're actually talking about building rapport and an ongoing stream of relationships that are going to feed you families. You're not necessarily talking about going and getting the assisted living facilities under contract, or are you?
No, that was easier for me, honestly. I was lucky in that I followed Bonnie Anker, who sort of covered all of Maryland, so a lot of folks already knew about us. And, one of the things that I had to do, which was absolutely they would sign with me, which was good, most of them, is trying to figure out, which ones in different price ranges and different zip codes. And so that took some skill. And if I got a hospital, then I wanted to make sure the zip codes around that hospital, we had enough communities. But more importantly, getting clients is harder than getting communities in most cases.
Okay, good. Thanks for clarifying that. Now, Paula, talk to us a little bit about the culture of the franchise system, not only between franchisees and each other, but also franchisees and corporate. What can you say about those two things?
All right, well, let's start with franchisees in Maryland. I think I am blessed and very lucky that the Maryland franchisees, and there are now 6 of us, work incredibly well together. And we got together early on, and as different folks buy into Maryland, we meet with them and we talk about sort of the culture of Maryland. And the culture of Maryland is we work together. When we talk about CarePatrol, we talk about all of Maryland or the whole country. If we have a meeting that branches over different counties, and we bring that franchise there. So we've been very good about trying to make sure that we all have the right way to go about and sell and talk about how much better we are and stronger we are with 6 of us than we were with 1 or 2. From the standpoint of the culture of the company, I think clearly between Becky and Chuck during training, and I just happen to have a great training group. I think 3 of us are in the top 10. We got along really well, and they really helped us learn, and then we had calls every week so we could ask the questions, and we were just a very energetic training group, so we all learned from each other, which I think was great. The tools they give you are wonderful, and you've got to use it. The computer system, albeit not perfect, I started immediately learning the computer system, and I track and trend so many things from information that's in the computer system. It's learning how to use it, but once you learn it, it gets easier, and it's important that you do it. And my team that I've now hired all know the importance of putting stuff in the computer. I think having, and I don't know what they're called, the regional trainers. What's the real word, Tom? That's
referred to them. Yeah, the new trainers.
Okay, all right.
Yeah,
the regional trainers are very, very good, and we are on calls once a month, and we can learn from each other, and that's been incredibly helpful. I think the business calls that we get are very helpful. The national meeting is wonderful because you get to see other people and ask questions. I remember when I was thinking about hiring someone right before the national meeting, and I think I asked anyone that would talk to me about how did they hire someone and how did they pay them. So that you're in a family. You feel like you're in a team. And that's the reason I wanted a franchise, is because I want to be part of a team. And I am. Although I'm in Team Maryland, I'm in, Team CarePatrol. I have, my own Baltimore team. I just think it's really important that you look at yourself as part of a team.
Great. Good answer. Thank you. Now, why do you think CarePatrol is one of the most successful placement referral services, not just in the United States, but literally on this planet?
Well, I think I think it's our value system, which is that we care about our clients and we want to find the safest the safest community for them. And Chuck and Becky have put together a process that works. If you care about your clients and if you do the right thing, business will follow. And I feel like, Chuck led us that way, and I continue to lead my team in Baltimore that way to do the right things. And it means doing some crazy out-of-the-box thinking where, I had a client who was in the hospital, and I went and got her cats and had to ask my father to help me with that. I mean, you do some crazy things to make sure that you are caring about, your client that you're working with. And it will, good news like that travels, and we have set ourselves apart from other competition because of what we do in our process.
Right, okay. Now, for those that are listening to this right now, potential franchisees, describe to them the support that you as a franchisee receive from corporate, the support, the training, whatever, that you feel is so valuable in this business.
Well, I mean, I think you get, I don't know if you get it now, but I got this fat book that was a training book, and it had everything from, how to sign up communities to how to sell to how to do invoices. I mean, they teach you those things. And then we've got an intranet, which is called Fran Connect, which we go into, and if you need something, you put it in, and you can usually find some tool that will help you. Everything from sales tools to brochures to PowerPoints to use. You just have to go into that intranet and look it up, and you can find it. And then, of course, all the calls that we're on helps you, because even though I might have learned it 3 years ago, maybe I really didn't instill it. It's not part of my practice, and I'm like, wow, I need to try that. And there's someone you can call anytime, whether it be your regional trainer, whether it be someone in your, a neighboring franchise. My training class still touches base. I mean, there's just a lot of people you can call and ask for help.
Awesome. Okay, very nice. Now, you probably touched on this in your past comments here, but what's the best thing about being a CarePatrol franchisee, would you say?
Well, I think I did is being part of a team and doing something that is really meaningful in life. I think at my age, that was the most important thing I could do, is have a job that was meaningful. And we help people every single day. And, I'm not saying it's always easy. It isn't. And I'm not saying you don't run into problems. You do. But at the end of the day, you can usually, when you place people, you feel good. Like I just saw 4 people today that I had placed over the last 2 weeks. And it is really, really wonderful when you go in and you see them happy and you run into their family and you see that your help helped this client be in a community that made them happy.
Oh, that's great. That is really good. Now, what word of advice would you have for a new potential franchisee investigating CarePatrol and seeing if they wanted to join our CarePatrol family?
Well, I think it's first important to look at your codes. I think you need to know how many beds are there, but more importantly, how many communities. There's, Tom, I think you gave me a list, but there's also a way to get a license list through the state, which is important. I think you need to know how many hospitals you have and how many rehabs you have, because those are your referral sources. The competition is different everywhere, and there were a couple major competitors which really aren't competitors today. But I think I was a bit naive, not understanding that some of my competition are care managers, and they're the ones that get referrals straight from financial people or lawyers. And I didn't even know that section of people, and they view us, and particularly me because I'm a nurse and they're all nurses, they view me head-on as competition. And I have spent 3 years trying to build relationships with them, and it's hard. But you definitely look at your territory for sure, and then call other franchisees, which I know, Tom, you suggest, and find out what what it was like for them, and definitely call the neighboring franchises, If you've got people that are neighboring you, call them, because number one, they probably know your territory. Number two, you start building a relationship with them out of the gate because they can help you. And I would definitely encourage that.
Okay, good. Words of wisdom there. Now, you had mentioned that you had started this business and you were pretty much running it solo for about 18 months, and that would be something that you would definitely change if you had to do this all over again. Is there anything else that you would do differently if you were starting new today?
I think that's really the number one issue. I think the other thing I tell new franchises that call me is that, and this happened to me, and it was just sort of luck, but I went to the CSA class, the Certified Senior Advisor class, before I started. And a lot of the people in my training didn't do it. And if you start this, you're all in. It's what we're saying is our theme in 2017, but I can't suggest how all in you need to be to make this work. This is not a part-time job. This is more than a full-time job. And there's no way you'll be successful if you think you're going to do this in 40 hours. You're not. You get calls Saturday, Sunday, evenings. If you have hospitals and they call you at 3, you got to be there at 5. So that's the one thing I really caution new franchises is if you're not all in, if you don't want to work hard, this is not a part-time job. You won't be successful.
All right. Good advice. Thank you. Now, we can just tell from the tone of your voice, and I don't even really have to ask this, knowing what you know now, would you do it all over again? Or are you just locked in here and just going through it?
Nope. I would do this again, and I have a team that loves it too, here in Baltimore. I'd do it again, and I'm going to keep doing it. I want to do it for 10 years.
That's awesome. Well, we feel honored that you were able to take some time and really giving us this valuable information. Hopefully those ones that are listening to this can take to heart what Paul is saying, because this is coming from our number one franchisee in our system. You were not only awarded the Franchisee of the Year, but also the top producer. So we really, really appreciate the time and the comments that you've shared with us, Paula. Thank you so much.
Okay. You're welcome.
All right.